technologies. Okay, now we have a recording start. Like I said, welcome to this very class on Excel for data analysis. And typically when I want to start any course in data analysis using any of the technologies, whether Excel, Power BI, Python, R, or SQL, I'd always like to establish what the industry is about and exactly the relevance of the skill. Then we can transition into the steps or the life cycle of data analysis so that we'll have a broad view of exactly what we're doing, how we're going to be handling it. And then we can now journey into Microsoft Excel, which is perhaps one of the most underrated yet powerful technologies that data analysts use to do their job. And the whole idea behind learning as many technologies as possible in data analysis so that you can have your hands in, you have your hands very good in all areas. So whether it's Excel, or it's Power BI, or it's some other technology, you'll be able to apply the same principles, the same processes that are involved into being able to deliver your job. So I'm going to dive straight into the slide before I get into Microsoft Excel. So I don't have so many things to show on the slide. I'll do more of explaining it and getting us all to have a good understanding of it. And then you do well to have your pen and paper so that you can take notes, because I will refer to this first class even as we journey through the process. This first class is very important. It's a critical part of our learning. And so I'd advise you take notes where you need to take notes so that we would all move together smoothly to the promised land. Okay, my name still remains Dominic Iodo. I'm a data analyst. I'm also a web developer, and I do other areas of tech. Data analysis seems to be one of the most exciting for me because it harmoniously integrates with almost every industry in the world, and it allows you to also be able to see things that ordinarily would not, things that looks like what they're not, you're able to uncover them, and you're also able to assist businesses and organizations make very, very meaningful decisions. Talking about that, you see, data analysts are so important to organizations because they are able to identify patterns, they're able to see trends, they're able to point to where things would likely be and where it's coming from. They're able to also make predictions. I'm sure some of us that are football fans, may have heard commentaries about some matches that are being played today, and you will hear some of those analysts talking about some footballers based on their statistics and what they will likely bring to the pitch today. And you can hear that they're always talking with reference to what they've done before and also predicting what they will likely do today. Data analysis comes into sports, it comes into oil and gas, it's there in marketing, it's there in entertainment, it's there in every industry in the world. So the prospects of getting a good job after this course is very, very high. Hence, if you are able to grasp the skill and master all of the technologies that you'll be taught in the course of learning, you will have, of course, well equipped yourself with the skill you need to fit into anything. For the marketing guys, they need you. For the guys that are into sports, they need you. The guys that are into it, name it. So it's actually one of the best skills you can acquire. If you're a Nigerian and you're still planning to come over maybe to the UK or to America, then you would want to, of course, consider a skill like this. And if you're already there, the chances of remote jobs are very, very, very high. You don't necessarily have to go report to your workplace in person, as you can work remotely as a data analyst, which makes it very convenient for you to also take care of the kids while you're home and still earn very good rewarding pay for yourself. So let's jump straight into what data analysis is about, and then we can begin to talk about the key steps that are involved in data analysis. Now, like you can see already on my screen, data analysis is the process of cleaning, changing and processing raw data and extracting actionable, relevant information that helps businesses make informed decisions. the process of cleaning, changing, and processing raw data. You know, every day as human beings, we generate data through our activities. Your phone is a device that stores data, and whether it's a contact information, or it's an SMS, or it's some WhatsApp chat, or some other information, or even your call logs, these are data. Now, if I am to request access to your phone and I expunge all of the data about your phone from January till this point, and of course, I'm able to also marry that with what happened sometime last year, there's a possibility that I'll be able to predict your actions, your steps, or some decisions you likely make in the coming weeks before the end of 2023. Let's say maybe that of last year might not be enough. If I have like data of 2-3 years before now, and I combine that with what I have seen, the trend, the pattern, I may be able to identify patterns. I may be able to identify trends. I might be able to see some of those numbers you call at certain times, certain text messages you receive, certain behaviors, like certain patterns. Usually by 4 o'clock, this happens. By 9 o'clock, he does this. I saw that in January. He did that like 20 times in all of the days of January. He did also in February about 19 times. In March, he did 23 times. That shows this is something that happens all the time. Who is he calling at that hour? Why does he call this person? I also see an SMS message always coming in like this. Okay, this must be from his bank. Now, there are patterns, there are trends, there are stats that can be identified from that behavior. And these can become very, very important basis for predicting what you likely do, and even a basis for correcting certain steps that may have led you to where you are, that if, of course, they could have been seen through some process like data analysis. I mean, they are evaluated. You'll be able to tell, oh, it is because I do this often that I don't have enough time to do that. Hence, I am where I am. Or it's because I do this often and I also do that. That's why I don't have enough time to also do all of these other things that could have been more profiting for me. Having said that, the process of collecting the data, cleaning it, changing it, and processing it by way of also extracting actionable and relevant information from that data is what your job as a data analyst is about. Because the whole idea behind that is to see that you help businesses, you help organizations, you help humans, I mean, human beings, if you're analyzing somebody's life by way of the data you are able to get from them. The whole idea is so that you can help them make informed decisions that will better whatever is going on. As a data analyst, you are able to guide or mitigate certain courses that could have maybe led to something worse happen or something terrible happening. You are also able to advise and guide organizations towards making better or achieving better results on certain areas of the operations of that organization. You cannot do that by making assumptions. You will not do that by guessing and saying, from what I see you guys doing, I believe by the grace of God, you get there. You know, indeed, the grace of God comes in to assist us in everything we do. But speaking scientifically, you need to work with facts. And when you talk about facts, you're referring to data. And when you're talking about data and looking through data, matching data over time with realities and comparing that with the status right now, also, of course, looking at it and projecting what will happen, you are able to guide and, of course, most likely lead whoever it is, whether it's an organization, is an individual, towards making more informed decisions that will, of course, foster growth and avert dangers. That is the reason why data analysts are needed in organizations. And when you know that you of course have, maybe you embody some of those natural traits that is needed to function very well in this industry, it means that when you combine your soft skill, which are those analytical skill, naturally, critical thinking skill, you are the type of person that also loves to, apart from being, thinking critically about things and being analytical, you're also the type that can work also with others, you know? You are the type that loves to solve problems. If you're that kind of person, then this is perhaps just the missing link. This is what you should have been doing all the while, because you can imagine being able to use technology or combine technology with your natural flair of what you already have. Some abilities in you're already doing that, and now you're combining technology to also help you do even more in that area. If you have that kind of combination, you can imagine how well you fit into the world today. Like I mentioned earlier, this is one skill that harmoniously integrates with almost every industry in the world. There's none. You can think about it. If it's in medicine, they are needed. If you recall with the COVID-19 and how it ravaged the world, before we started realizing that indeed this is an epidemic, this is really dangerous, it took the findings and the investigations and of course the analysis of some data analysts to be able to identify that indeed this disease that was found here not long also happened there, happened here, and there's a sequence. It's like everybody who has the disease came in contact with somebody who had it first, and they begin to see, they are able to also measure the velocity, the spread rate. They're able to talk about the number of people, the density of guys that are also at risk and all of that. Who are the people doing that? They are the data analysts. They need data. That's why data is key to everything. When you hear, things like data is the new oil, you perhaps may not understand why it is so important. But in the course of this course, we'll do our best to see that we are able to help you appreciate the reason why data is the window, is the mirror through which you can predict how you got here, or you can tell how you got here and predict where you'll likely be. If you have the data of what has happened in the last 5 years and the data of what is happening right now in your life, there are chances that you might be able to guide yourself in the next 2-3 years to avoid making mistakes you made and also improving on those areas you did well, so that in the next 2 years from now, you can even do better. Now, having said all of this, to be able to do that effectively, to function as a data analyst, there are key steps that are involved in the processes that you will have to, of course, undertake while doing your job as a data analyst. I call this the life cycle of data analysis, the 6 steps involved in data analysis. The first of them is to define the problem statement. The second is data collection. The third is data quality check and remediation. Fourth, exploratory data analysis. The fifth step is data modeling, and the sixth is data communication. I'm going to explain these 6 steps right now, and then I hope we're able to get it in perspective so that by the time we now start doing the job using Excel, we'll be able to understand. By the way, the idea is to take you from 0 to pro in Excel. So we're going to start with Excel like you've never seen the software before. And we'll walk you through from the basics to the intermediate to the advanced, and then to start using Excel as a tool for data analysis. So indeed, it promises to be an exciting journey going from here to where we are headed. Only if you also have something like a map, something that gives like a guide, something that helps you appreciate where we are headed. That is where these 6 steps comes in. Because as a data analyst, there's something that you should always have at the back of your mind while doing your job. The first of them is defining the problem statement. Are we together? I need to be sure that we are together, and so far we are all following. If you are following and we're still very much together in this journey, I need you to go to the chat and say, I'm following. I just need you to say, I'm following. I'll get reactions soon. I'd need you to engage with me very soon because I want students to engage. I don't subscribe to just watching and having me talk like a commentator all through. I didn't do that style. But for the first start, I would be doing a lot of talking. Along the line, I need us to get to where we should. The goal is to get students finished from this and be able to land themselves good jobs. The idea is not for you to come and then we'll fulfill this and it's like they've learned, but they've not learned anything at all, you know? There's a way you could go through a training and think you are learning, but you're not learning anything. You are excited, but you're not learning. The idea is not to excite you here. The idea is for you to get active, to get hands-on, so that you can already start seeing yourself living the dream and being able to do it. There's nothing like, I have seen it, I think I can do it. It has to be, I saw it, I did it, so I believe I will be able to do it going forward. That's the way we're going to do this. If you're ready for that, please join me, let's move on. I've seen only 3 responses, meaning we have only 3 people following the class so far. That's a pity. If you are following, please do confirm to me that you're following the class so that will also encourage me to continue going forward. Okay, I don't want to move alone. I'm Liverpool in this, so I don't walk alone. I need us to work together so that we can get to the promised land. Now, the first step is to define the problem statement. When you talk about defining the problem statement, what this entails is asking the right set of questions. You know, let me stage a scenario. Imagine as a data analyst, you come to a supermarket. You come in as a consultant and you're requested to, maybe the owner of the supermarket says something like, well, I really don't know what's happening around here. I know we were doing well, but I don't know, things went terrible from November last year, I think, and things have been terrible. I don't know, the figures are not tallying. It's a mess. It's just a mess. I don't really know what to do. But a friend told me that you guys know how to identify what is wrong and how we can improve. So I thought you guys should come in here and do something for us. Just look at things that try to help us, please. Just help us get out of this. Now, that person has not really said anything that would be enough for you to work as a data analyst. But what has been established is that there's a problem. Now, your job as the data analyst in the first step is to be able to ask the right set of questions that will help you know exactly what is wrong. And that, by asking the right set of problems, you are able to define the problem statement. You're able to categorically say that this, you're able to tie time, and you're also able to say this thing started happening this time, and these people want improvement on these areas of their business because they are hoping to start getting these kinds of results in the next 6 months or in the next 1 year. You need to be able to define exactly what the problem is and what the hoped result or resolution or improvements should be, not in a vague manner, but with clarity. So you will need to ask further questions. Maybe this time not from the owner of the business, but of course, aside from what you're going to export from their data, from their CRM system or from the website, if it's an online store, you want to export some data from the database for the last 2-3 years, and including the data up to the current date. You want to be able to get all of those data together, and also combine that by asking some questions also from both the man talking to you and maybe the HR department head and some other persons or personnel that are important. The questions you're asking is so that you can be able to identify exactly what the issue is, what you want to solve. That person is speaking from an emotional point of view and he's not really happy, yes, but you need to be able to identify the problems categorically appreciate exactly his own point of view and try to know exactly what he's expecting you to improve. What are the areas you're hoping to see improvements? In that way, you are able to define the problem statements. Somebody said, I want us to grow. I mean, we just want to grow. We want what can help our company grow. Of course, in the course of looking through the data and asking the right questions, you'll be able to know exactly when they started doing badly, how good it had been before, and at what point did things start going very bad. Or perhaps they are still doing just as they've been doing, but because he compared what they are doing to what some other organizations, of their level is doing, they realize that they've been celebrating what is not good enough, you know? So with all that put in perspective, you will be able to satisfy this step one, which is asking the right set of questions. If you don't ask the right set of questions, you will not be able to know exactly how to use the data to prefer solution to the problems. Are we together? Are we together? We're together. You confirm that you're following. That will do well. So that we'll go into the second step. Second step.
Yes, we are.
Good, good, good. Thank you. The second step involved in data analysis is to collect the data. If you recall, I was saying that while you are the need for asking the right questions is so that, of course, you can know the kind of data you need to be able to answer the questions. You ask the right questions. You're going to answer the questions from their data set, from the data the organization has, from the data they've already had over time, or from the data you will want to collect. Now you've come in there to investigate what is wrong. Now, when I say the data they've had over time, talking about this step two, data collection.
We can't hear you anymore, though.
Oh, I'm very sorry about that. I went off briefly. I think there was some kind of glitch in my network because I was talking and then I noticed that I had gone off. So sorry about that. So I hope you can hear me clearly now.
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, let's go on now. So I've talked about defining the problem statement, and that essentially means asking the right sets of questions. You know, at the end of this class, we're going to walk through the 6 steps individually. Everyone would explain the 6 steps involved in data analysis. So when I said you should have a piece of paper, it's so that you can summarize what you understood from the first, the second, the third, the fourth. This is something you should have, how will I call it? It should be there every time, just somewhere. You should know it. It should be there with you. It's not something you would need to start thinking about 6 months from now. You need to know this like you remember your daily drills, the 6 steps that are involved, so that at any point in time while you're working as a data analyst, you can tell, I am currently in step 3. I am currently in step 4. Did I do step 2? Did I do it effectively? You know, maybe the step 1 wasn't done effectively. You can tell exactly where you are. Let's go on. Like I was saying, step 2 involves collecting data, and this can be done either through primary method and secondary method. The primary method of data collection involves using questionnaires or asking questions, should I just say, indirectly while you are interacting with stakeholders. Now, a primary data collection means that you want to generate data by asking questions that will help you get close to the actual problem. A secondary method of collecting data is you referring to data that already exists in the organization from their systems. Maybe they have a CRM or an ERP, or they have some kind of system they use, or they have a website. A situation where you are going to export the data from the database with the aim of analyzing it so that you can identify trends, you can identify patterns, you can see key metrics, and this will form the basis for your recommendation at the end of the day. Then you are doing what is called secondary data collection. You are collecting the data from existing database or from an existing data set. Secondary data collection could also involve going on the internet to websites and platforms where they have data sets. You go download them because you probably want to practice. We're going to get to that. We'll learn how to get data from websites where you can download the data set and have something to work with and something that will form your portfolio that employers, of course, will be looking forward to seeing. So the primary method and the secondary method could be combined depending on the situation. Primary method, you're going to the IT department to say, hey guys, I need access to your database. I want to see data for the last 4 years, including the one for this year up till this date. Up to today. I need to see that. Can I have it? Yes. If they give you access, they could say, well, oh, please go ahead. You can export yourself. Or the IT department, depends on the organization. They could say, don't worry, we'll make it available for you tomorrow. I hope that will be fine. Or we can do that right away. The most important thing is you are going to extract, you're going to expunge data, you're spooling data from the existing database. You use that for your job. That method is secondary. The primary one means you now create questionnaires. Okay, they're complaining. Part of what you heard, the person that got you in, maybe the main client, the main stakeholder, before other stakeholders, the main stakeholder was, while you guys were discussing, he said something like, I don't know. I don't really know, to be honest, especially the guys that have been working in the Eastern region and the Northern region. They're not doing anything. We're not making sales from there. I don't know. And this thing, I don't know. I think it started just early last year or so. It's a mess. It's a mess. Now, while this guy is talking, there are some very important points that should strike your thoughts as a data analyst. He's giving you information. He's disturbed that his sales reps are not doing enough. He's even particular about certain regions. Now, you should be able to ask questions without bias. Now, as a data analyst, if you cannot strip your analysis of bias, then whatever you're doing, it's not going to be it at all. He said the guys in the north, he said the guys in some regions, but let the data tell you. And how do you combine what the data is saying, the secondary data you exported from the system, with the reality? What could have happened? Could it be the head in those departments was sacked? Could it be something happened? Could it be they are demotivated? Are there other factors? Could it be these regions currently have issues? Maybe there's political instability in that region, but the man has refused to be reasonable. And all he cares about is the fact that the figures are not what it had been before. Now, to answer some of those questions, you will need to come up with questionnaires. And these questionnaires could be shared to those sales reps or all of the sales reps in the organization. It could be a questionnaire that you'll be able to learn other information not gathered in the database that you couldn't have easily known. So it therefore means you will also, of course, need to ask the right set of questions so that you can get close to the truth about the matter. You're going to combine the data set you will generate from that questionnaire with the data that you gather by exporting data from their system. When you do that, then you're sure indeed you have properly satisfied the second step involved in data analysis, which is, of course, data collection. Having done that, you go to the third step, which is data quality check and remediation. Perhaps you are doing this while you are also doing the second step. It depends on the scenario. But what does this entail? What this entails is making sure that this data you have collected was collected without any form of bias, was gathered by the right authority, the data itself has undergone some sort of sanity check so that it's not some data that has been, maybe some group of guys or somebody in the IT department decided to export only data that concerns certain areas that they know will not be able to implicate them because actually some things are not going on well in some areas, you know? Or in the course of creating your questionnaire in step 2, you start asking questions that are already tilted towards bias. You guys, the northern region is not, I mean, it's politically unstable, right? That's a biased question. There's a possibility you people were expecting pay raise and didn't get it, right? That is not the kind of question you should be asking. In the course of our learning, we're going to learn how to ask the right set of questions when it comes to data collection. You need to ask questions that are devoid of bias so that you can get close to the truth about the matter. Questions that don't already suggest that you have formed an opinion about the subject matter and you just need a validation. No, that is not the kind of question a data analyst should ask. I'm now talking about how to avoid bias when collecting data using primary method. Then what about the secondary method? Perhaps you're downloading the data from the website from kaggle.com or from data.world or one of those websites on the internet, platforms where you can access data sets that you use to practice your skill or maybe actually do a very, very serious project. The question should be, the data you're collecting, what is the authority backing the data? Who uploaded the data there? What is the guarantee that this data is not some falsified data? Or could this just be a dummy data? Has the data been altered? Is the data complete? Are there too many nulls? Should you destroy the data or consider it not good enough on grounds of the fact that it has so many blanks? Now, these are the kinds of questions that you want to ask before you say, well, I think we have the right data set to analyze, and whatever we get in the course of this analysis is indeed the truth about the matter. If you check and you find out that maybe the data is missing some critical information, there are some missing data, and you find out that there is a place still on the internet, or there is a department in that organization that has the missing data. Of course, when I talk about remediation, it therefore means there is a way you can still get data from somewhere to join to this existing data you have, so that, of course, the authenticity, the validity of this data now, of course, its posture, whether it's going to be data analysis ready or not, will be determined by whether the data you've now gathered plus the one you have already makes it complete or whole. Now, what is the basis for asserting that? The key thing here is the quality of data you are collecting for analysis should be data that is indeed what they say it is. And it is your duty as the analyst to make sure of that, so that you don't just assume. You don't assume, you say, oh, well, anyways, it doesn't really matter. After all, they're professionals. I'm sure they gave me the real thing. Let me just get into the job already. And then you go in there, you start analyzing something that they gave you to analyze, because you obviously do not understand how to extract the data from the database, maybe. This is the reason why you need to also learn about database management system, or the language that is needed to speak to databases, which is structured query language, SQL. That is also part of what is in the menu for you to learn. That's not what I'm going to be teaching you also, though, but you can be sure that E1X has that as part of what you learn in the course of your data analysis training. So it is good that in as much as you will trust certain professionals to do their job, where need be, it's important that you also know how to get the data from the source. That's the step 3, checking the quality of data and making sure that it's actually what it is. The 4th step that is involved in data analysis is EDA, exploratory data analysis. And what this essentially means is building familiarity with the data set. Now you have collected the data, you have the data available to you. It's about time you start working on it. Now, to start working on it means you need to really try to understand exactly what this data set is, like the definition of the data set in terms of how many columns and rows does it have. That is still on the surface, but it's very important. How many records, how many observations? In data analysis, you refer to rows as observations, and the columns, you call them attributes. Now, how many observations do you have? How many records? If I say records, if I say rows, if I say observation, I'm talking about the same thing. We are dealing with 4 tables. 4 tables are exported from the database. One of them has 1,400,000 records. Another has just 14,000 records, and the other has blah, blah, blah records. Like, you need to be able to understand what it is. Now, you also be looking at, okay, these records I see here, this data set, that is the column, the definition of the columns now, or the attributes. You have something like first name, last name, order dates. You're seeing all this stuff. While you're looking at that, you're now trying to see how that can indeed help to answer the problem statements you have identified in step 1. You are beginning to think already, this data set, I hope with all these I have, I'll be able to, okay, I can combine this with this one. I think if I calculate, I can do a calculation to know the average pay per month. Yes, I can do that. Like multiplying this one, I'll divide it. Okay, I get, yes, it can work. Then what about if I want to answer this question? Can I combine this and that to, oh yeah. This is good, this is perfect. I think, okay, I can combine that. That table will help me answer that question. When I combine this table and this table, the data on this table with the data on that table, that's what you're doing. In the course in EDA. EDA essentially means building familiarity with the data set. You're getting to know the data set. You're trying to appreciate the data set. You're looking at the problem statements. You are also evaluating the all of the data, trying to see if indeed this data set looks like what will do the job, and combining it also with maybe the other data sets you gathered using primary method of collecting data. When we talk about primary method of collecting data in this step 2, I talked about using questionnaires, and these questionnaires could be done using Google Forms. With Google Forms, you can collect the data using Google Forms. Just share a link to all the staff, they fill it, and then you collect the data in Google Sheet and download it in Excel, and you still have another data set that will help you also, of course, be able to understand if what you have right now will be adequate to answer the critical questions around the problem statements. EDA equals building familiarity with your data set. Having satisfied step 4, it is important then you go to the step 5, which is data modeling. When you talk about modeling data, essentially what you're talking about is building relationships. This is where you begin to use functions, you begin to use the utilities, the tools, those things that makes the technology you're using what it is. In the case of Excel, you begin to talk about things like Power Pivot. You begin to talk about things like pivot tables. You begin to use those formulas, those functions, those utilities that are there in that technology. In Power BI, you have all of those tools you use there. In Python, in R, they're there. Now, for you to build the data models, and when I say building data models, okay, let me give you an instance. You have the data set of a supermarket, like I said. There is a table that is for the transactions. They call it orders table. There's another table for the staff, where you have information about all of the staff they have. You see something like maybe first name, last name, date of birth, hire dates, blah, 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 wage, salary, and all that is on that table. And then on another table, you have the order table. You have something like date, order ID, you have product purchased, you have shipping ID, you have a lot of information relating to the order, transactions that are going on every day. And then you have maybe another table that has to do with maybe the inventory, where you're talking about the number of products that are still available, the amount, the number that has left, the number that has been added, and all the stuff. Now, these are three different tables I've described. For you to effectively do analysis, you need to connect all three tables so they can relate. Actually, most of the time, this data you'll be analyzing were already extracted or expunged or spooled out of a relational database management system like MySQL or Oracle or some other very big database. So when you export them, maybe you want to analyze them outside of that system, because actually you could do real-time analysis. You could analyze the data directly live while the website is still on. While the website is good, you connect to the database and you are doing analysis. And there's a possibility that you want to analyze by exporting the data. Maybe you want to analyze what happened from this month all the way to 5 years ago. Then you don't need to be live. You could export all of this data and then take them to your own server and then do your analysis there. Now, but you need to restage, or you need to create the relationship that existed as it was in the live environment before, so that when you're asking questions about an order, yes, you can see the order ID, you can see the staff ID, and that staff ID will give you even more. The staff ID is a link to the staff table. If the staff ID is 42, and on the staff table, if you go to 42, you are able to see the first name, the last name, the hire date, and every other thing. It means, therefore, from the order table, where I have all the information about an order that was placed, including the staff that handled the order and the customer and all of that, using either customer ID or staff ID, I'm able to even get further information about the staff and even the customer, because there is a relationship between the order table, the customer table, and of course, the staff or employee table. Establishing that relationship is what we talk about when we are referring to data modeling. You model the data. You are able to also, if it's a case of just a one table thing, you are able to create some calculated fields, some new columns, some new attributes. You derive them from existing ones so that they will help you answer the questions by the time you start visualizing, which is actually what people want to see finally, the end user. Talking about which, I will then move to the sixth step, which is data communication. This is the part that is most important to the stakeholders. While you're busy doing all this, they don't care. While you're doing step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, this is the part that matters to them. This is the part where you have to speak in a language they understand. If you are doing your analysis, if you're a data analyst and you're communicating to stakeholders that are in the medical industry, perhaps they brought you in to come help them evaluate a situation or to help them evaluate the general performance of their medical facility. They want to know what is going on, appreciate how well they are doing. They want to see maybe where they can improve. Or maybe there's a specific reality. They want to identify if the number of patients that are coming is a reflection of the fact that there could be an epidemic, an outbreak that they are not taking very seriously. So they needed to compare the data they have in their hospital with the data as it is out there. If that is the situation, regardless of whatever it is, you have done your homework. You have done step 1, you have done step 2, you've done step 3, you've done step 4, you have modeled the data. You've even now come to the point where you are designing your visualization, what you'll be using as an instrument for communicating. Now, as a data analyst, your job is to take those data, those busy rows and columns that is not interesting to the billionaire that owns that hospital, or the billionaire that owns that publishing firm. What he cares about is to know the figures. He wants to know why we're not doing well. He wants to know why the figures dropped from $14 billion to $13 billion this year. He wants to know why we're getting a lot of patients, but we're not making money. He wants to know why people are not coming anymore. He's interested in the figures. He's not interested in you scrolling some Excel sheet loaded with all kinds of tables and rows for him. He's not interested in all that. He wants to know that's why he's paying you. So how do you communicate with him? That's where visualization comes in. That's where using charts. That's where your pie charts, your clustered column charts, your clustered bar charts. That's where you begin to use line charts. That's when you use all of those visualizations in manners that you can make sense to the stakeholders. You put them using the right colors. You present them in a manner the stakeholders can already fall in love with what you're about to say even before you talk. Not some tattered looking dashboard that even before you start opening your mouth to say some people are murmuring at the back. You know, you have something that already captivates them. They're already talking about what they are saying. Ooh, 2021. Wow, I said it. We should indeed. Yes, we did better then. Look at how things fell down. You've not spoken yet. They're already talking amongst themselves. That means your visualization is already communicating. The whole idea behind the 6th step is to effectively communicate. And now, while you are communicating, it is therefore important that you speak the language of your audience. If you are in the medical industry, you should speak the language. That's why when you are called to function as a data analyst in any industry, whether you're a consultant, that means maybe you have more than 4 different industries you are even consulting with, it is imperative that for every time you have a task, you immerse yourself fully in that industry, bearing in mind the lingua, understanding how they speak, understanding what the terminologies means, researching, asking questions, making friends with them to be able to talk to them on a very, very personal level, understanding the terms and why they use them if possible, asking Google, asking ChatGPT, using all of those things so that you can learn, so that by the time you're identifying patterns, what may look abnormal to you because of your analysis may actually be a normal reading. But you will not know that because you didn't investigate what the bars, I mean, you know what I mean? What those lines, what the yardstick for saying this is horrible, this is good, this is excellent, or this is something we should work on, you know? The only way you can find that is when you immerse yourself in that industry, whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment, whether it's medicine and all that. So by the time you know your audience and you're speaking their language, you're talking like a medical practitioner already. You're telling them the figures, you're pointing to the key figures. You're not trying to explain to them every single thing on the dashboard, but you're taking them to only the very, very important parts. The part you know will be most important to them. I always tell a lot of people that data analysis is one industry that combines psychology with the abstraction of coding and also graphics design. So you need to be able to embrace all 3 together, because if you don't have a good understanding of human psychology, you could come there and you think you're doing a very reasonable presentation, but you are hitting the things that don't really matter. You're not talking about what you know they want to hear. Who am I going to be talking to? Yes, you've done an incredible job, a very awesome dashboard. You should do the job. But unfortunately, you get to that point, and rather than talking about those key figures that are up there, you're there pointing to them why one chart. You see that thing, I was going to work on it. It's just that I know some of you might be struggling with seeing that mark there, but no problem. Don't worry, I'll work on it. No. You should go for what matters. Tell them what they need to know. If they're asking further questions for clarity, you can say, oh, you mean that? Then you can talk about that. But what do they need to know? That is what you should find out. And how would you know what they need to know? Step 1, you defined the problem statement. You listened. That is, if you listened effectively. I want you not to get, the problem with most professionals is, at a point, they get too cocky. They feel that I've seen a lot already. So whatever this person, I understand. It's a supermarket. It's just like, you remember that place we went 4 months ago? It's just like that. I know that their problems are all the same. They're cheating and all that. Don't worry. We'll use the same dashboard for them. No. You need to listen to what that guy is saying properly. His problem could be peculiar. Yes, indeed, the industries might have similarity. I mean, the realities are always almost constant, but then there are just Those little things that makes the big difference. You need to listen carefully so that by the time you're on step 6 and it's time to communicate, you are hitting the thing on the head where it should be. You're talking about the thing. You say, like I observed. Yes, you observed. You saw from the data and you heard when the man was explaining to you, when the team was complaining some time ago. You listened and then you're talking. Let me also mention that in this 6th step, it is critical that you let them know limitations you faced in the course of doing the analysis. And where you made assumptions, it is critical that you let them know also about that. You're saddled with the responsibility of analyzing the situation as it pertains to students in the, let's say, the war-torn part of a country like Nigeria. And you want to, maybe the analysis is to be able to identify whether or not students are still enthused about the prospects of learning around there, especially those in higher institutions. Saddled with that responsibility, you went out with your team, and in the course of gathering data, maybe by using a questionnaire, you try to get it as far as possible to a lot of students in different institutions around that area. And those that were in school but have left school, you've been doing your job, but you got to 2 communities where they say, as we speak, the Boko Haram guys are running around, or they are running circles around there. And because you value your life, which I will also advise you should, you decided that, hey, I think this analysis, since we have seen, let's just assume the towns are called Gaza and Ramah. Since we have seen Gaza and Ramah, and they are very close to that guy, to that place, I think the data from Gaza should be similar to this Dodo town that we cannot access right now, and the one from Ramah should be similar to the other small town there. So let's just make assumptions and work with this almost the same data. If at all, the difference will be plus or minus 20,000 entries. So we can just make assumptions. And then you do that. Yes, you have 13 towns that you get that data from, but these remaining 2 towns, you made assumptions. You made assumptions that indeed your assumptions may not be far from the reality. But it is critical that you mention to the stakeholders in the course of your, your presentation, or if you're not going to be presenting it yourself, you're sending a report, it is critical you mention to them that there are parts you made assumptions. This is to avoid embarrassing situations like you making a presentation and then some persons in the audience starts disputing your data or your metrics or the things you are saying. Somebody's like, oh, no, come on. It can't be. I am from that town. We're not even up to 12,000. How come you have 12,000 there? Come on. It's not possible. And interestingly, I was even there around that time of the year. You said you did your distance. Nobody came around. No, this is not it. Now, what do you think will happen to the other people in the audience if that kind of thing should happen in the course of your presentation? The integrity of your analysis is already in doubt. Almost every other thing you said, they don't even trust anymore because it is clear that you made, the fact they will assume you made assumptions on almost everything. You don't want that. So it is critical you communicate assumptions and where you faced limitations, where there were problems, where there were lots of missing data. Hence you had to, because they were into maybe more than 10% of the total data set. They were not up to 10% or they were not more than 10%. You decided to discard them because they were incomplete data. It's good you also mentioned that. These are critical things you should do while you're finally communicating the outcome of your analysis to stakeholders. And having done all that, make your recommendations. Don't just communicate bad news and leave them there. You said, this is it. You guys are not doing well because this and that. This department is not doing well. I noticed you guys were doing better in the first quarter of the year, but towards the second quarter, I don't really know what's wrong. But I later found out that it's because of this product. This product doesn't sell well around this time of the year. So I'd advise you guys to drop your expenses in purchasing this, channel that money more towards this. this product seems to be your bestseller, especially around this time. Don't you think we should win more in where we have our strength? If that's the case, I would advise the team to consider maybe putting in as much as $50,000 as compared to the $30,000 they usually do there. This is what I know this will likely do. If they do this, this was going to affect our total by this percent, and this amount we're earning right now would grow to become this amount. This is the kind of recommendations you should give to stakeholders in the course of your analysis. It should be it should not be things, oh, by the grace of God. No one wants to hear by the grace of God during your analysis. They want to know what you're talking about based on the facts. Okay? Let them think by the grace of God on their own. Your job is to do the analysis critically and help them identify exactly where they have issues, where they are doing well, where they can get better, and the prospects of what they will achieve if they start putting things in the right way. This will steer them in the direction they should go, and of course, encourage them to know that indeed, yes, we have a problem, but there's a solution around the corner. Any questions so far before we transition into the other part of our talk, which is looking into Microsoft Excel? I've been talking for a while, and now I need reactions. 6 steps involved in data analysis. Is it clear to anyone? If you understood it, please go to the comment section and tell me, yes, you understand. But if you have a question, do well to indicate by raising your hand, and then I'll call you to talk. You have a question? I need that. The next 10 minutes, I need to get reactions from you guys. What are your feelings? How do you feel looking at data analysis? Is this something that excites you? Do you think it's something you want to do? Are you scared? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think you're cut out for this? Do you feel you're not cut out for this? It's good, we know, so we can already begin to weigh our strength before we move into the next level. Okay, I see one hand. If you have questions, make sure you put your hands up so that I can call you once I'm ready to entertain those questions. But in the absence of questions, I need you to tell me if you understood what I've been saying so far coming to this point. If you understood the 6 steps involved in data analysis, you can talk about it, you can visualize it, you can appreciate it, and of course, put it in a clear, simple term to anyone. Then, of course, you can tell me, yes, I understood. Yes, I understood what you just talked about. Say that on the chat. And if you didn't understand, say, sorry, I did not understand. I want to have that on the chat before I proceed. Meanwhile, while I'm waiting for that, someone had his hands up, Caesar. So, Caesar, let me have your question, please, or your observation or your impression about maybe whatever it is right now you are thinking. Let me have your thoughts. I want to feel your pulse.
Thank you very much. So far I've really been enjoying your presentation. By the way, data analytics is such an interesting subject for me. It's an area that I think is so wonderful. I like the way you captured it, that is actually applicable to almost every industry, in fact, every industry, because nothing works very well without data. So it's an interesting area to delve into, especially now. Now, having said that, I followed you very well in the 6 steps that you've discussed, but I have a little question around data modeling. I was just trying to wrap my mind around it, but it's still not sticking very well. So maybe you do well to just talk a little bit more on data modeling. That's number 5. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Caesar. I appreciate when my students are able to come out clearly to tell me exactly where they have issues. It helps me to know indeed where we stand. Please, I want us to be as free as possible in this class. Where you need to communicate, please don't hesitate. You could come out, you say it, you know, it helps every other person to learn. I can bet that a lot of people had that question in mind. You see that 5th step, with most of the batches I've trained, most times questions are always coming about step 5. Some want to be sure they are not confusing 4 and 5. Okay, so let me react to that question right now. And the fifth step, where you model data modeling, like I try to capture it then, is you roll out your functions, you roll out your formulas, you begin to take advantage of the technology, what the technology you're using, if it's Excel, if it's Power BI, if it is Python, you're using some of those libraries in Python for data analysis, or you're using R. Modeling, data modeling actually involves first building relationships if you're working with more than one data set. If you have a data set about a school, and there's a data set that captures students' records, there's a data set that captures teachers' records, there's another data set that captures the academic performance of students in the classes, in all of the classes in the school. When you're modeling, your first step is to first of all establish the relationship that exists amongst these three different data sets that are connected to that school. When you've established that relationship, then you can begin to also deduce certain calculated fields or columns. You can begin to derive and establish relationships that will help you answer questions when you're visualizing. You see, your job as a data analyst, most of the time, before the final visual is brought out there, you already know what you want them to see. It's like saying, how do I capture this? Okay. For those of you that are very familiar with African magic and you watch most of these Nollywood movies, you see those guys that rub some things on their eyes and they'll go shaking some things, the DBS, the native doctors. When people come to them with problems and they tell them exactly, we don't know what is wrong with our community, children are dying anyhow and all of that, like they would do. They come up with all those lovely scripts. Now the guy will do all the incantation and everything. And most times, if you observe, they will take a pause. Even when they've gotten the message and they're looking. What they're doing most times is they're trying to process, I assume, I don't know. They're trying to process what exactly the emotion, if these people have the capacity to deal with what they're about to tell them. And they think of the best way to say it in a way they will understand. While you are doing your data modeling, you already have a picture of what you want the analysis, the dashboard. You already know what you want to tell, how you want to answer the question. Because if you identify problems, you should be able to show the stakeholders the problems you identified. They should see it graphically. And for you to start visualizing or creating visuals, you need to model first. You need to use the formulas, write the functions, do all of those calculations that Excel and all of those softwares will help you do. When you've done that part, the outcome from those things you've done, those functions you've written, those formulas you've written that has brought about some results, which you, of course, you knew you had to create because you want to visualize it to these stakeholders. This is what modeling is about. Everything that goes into cooking the food in a manner that when you put it on the plate, it will look good and taste nicely is the modeling, is the cooking. The actual work is happening in the modeling phase. That's when you roll out the functions, you write the formulas, you use the VLOOKUP, you do everything you need to do to bring out that thing in a manner that it comes out ready for you to now start visualizing it. And it is in the course, I mean, what helps you communicate is your visualization. In the sixth step, that is when you start. Now, those endpoints that has come out, so the total sales is 14,000, the profit is 5,000, and this and that. You begin to look for how to show that, okay, this profit, how did they make the profit? This category had, okay, this category brought 3,000. Let me use a bar chart to show that this one's 2,000. Oh, this one is just 100. Okay, that should be a red. Let's put a red there around that. That is visualization. But what led to that? The modeling. Are we together, Caesar? Does it make sense now?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. So any questions? Any questions? What are your thoughts? What are your impressions? Do you see yourself doing this thing to the end? you see, this first step is a very, very important part of everything. The takeoff. It doesn't matter how many times you've done this course. There's a possibility that you didn't have the right mindset. That's why you didn't get to the end. So if we don't get the right mindset from the onset, there's going to be a problem going forward. Most times, a lot of people jump into data analysis without even understanding what is involved in it. They just, this SQL I started to, before you they jump into Excel and they start doing another thing. Soon they become confused in the midst of all of it. There are many technologies that are involved. But one thing that doesn't change is the sequence in how you go about solving the problem. That is where the 6 steps involved is important. When you know what you are doing and why you are doing, its importance, its relevance in the big scheme of things, it becomes more interesting going forward. The technology becomes the aid. You don't begin to see Excel like it's one big deal. Oh, there's this VLOOKUP or whatever. What is the place of the VLOOKUP in your? It's just a tool. I see a hand from Bill Kisu. Can I have your question or your reaction, please?
Hi, sir. Yes, sir. Can you please explain the number 1 again, if you don't mind?
Okay. Defining the problem statements. The first step involved in data analysis. Thank you very much, Bill Kisu, for that question again. When you meet stakeholders and they say, we need you to come and do analysis, they will usually have a case. There will always be a scenario. Somebody will explain that to you, or they could give you a document to tell you this is what we've been talking about. We had a meeting yesterday, and we realized that we need a data analyst to come tell us exactly what is wrong, to come help us know what we are doing, what is not going on right. When they give you that, or it turns out that you met the owner of the organization and or the team, the top level executive, top management executives, and in the course of talking, they are telling you there is a challenge here. We're doing well. I think it started going, I can't really remember. Maybe one of them said, it was in October. One said, no, even before October. If you recall, it was when Julius left. While they are saying all that, you have started collecting your facts already. Now, they are saying something. It will come vague. That is one fact. Whatever it is they're explaining, whatever it is they're talking about will never be clear enough or usable for you in your analysis process. So your job is to define it properly. Asking the right set of questions so that you can exactly know what exactly is your problem, and also to be able to learn their expectations. We are hoping that we can improve our company's earnings from whatever it is we're earning now to at least 30% more between now and the next 6 months. We need you to come help us. We have funds, about $1.2 million, that is about to be injected into our company with the aim of improving, of course, the way we are doing. Having evaluated the fact that new or some big giants are coming into the market, and we need to measure up with them. So the guys funding us have decided to inject this amount of money. And we want to know in which of our departments, or how much should we disburse to each of the departments if we must be able to achieve the intended result. What is the intended result? You need to know that. Now, asking the right set of questions with the purpose of understanding exactly what you need to do is what step 1 is involved in the 6 steps of data analysis. It's about asking the right set of questions so that you can know exactly what the problems are, so that at the end of the day, when you're doing that last step, which is the data communication, and you have already told them everything you have seen, told them where we are doing well, you can now finally give them your recommendations, which will now be the ultimate response to all of those problems that you identified they really needed to solve from the onset. Hope that is clear. Any questions further? Any question on that again? Is it clear to you, Bilkisu?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. I see Engineer Akin. Engineer, I want to hear your thoughts, please.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're very clear.
Can you hear me?
You're clear, sir.
I want you to touch steps 2, 3, and 4 again.
Okay, I'll do that very quickly now.
Step 2, data collection, data quality check and remediation, and exploratory and data analysis.
Okay,
Can you
good.
just a little wrap up on them?
Okay, I'll do that very quickly now. So the second step, step 2, data collection, that is important because once you have identified what the key areas are that you need to deal with, or where the problem lies, or what the expectations of your client is as it pertains to the needs they have talked about and what they hope they will be able to achieve if you are able to guide them there. The next thing is to collect data. And then I talk about data collection as having 2 methods. You have the primary data collection method and the secondary data collection method. Primary data collection involves you using questionnaires, asking direct questions to like meeting somebody, discussing with the person with the aim of what? Learning more about maybe the organization, or learning more about the problems that you found out they want to solve, because you asking questions, interacting. And it also involves, most importantly, of course, that question you're asking is to collect data. You are gathering data. I mean, you're not just talking. You're not just talking for talking's sake. You're talking and taking notes. Now, it could also extend as far as you creating questionnaires, creating a form, where you ask questions. You ask something like name, department, email address, and then you start asking maybe questions like, how motivated are you in this organization on a scale of 1 to 10? How motivated are you on the job? They put, what do you think, blah, 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 blah. Yes or no. You use Boolean kind of questions. Yes or no, or where they need to pick figures, they can just select 1, or they can type 10, they can type 50. Whatever it is, you're not giving them room to start typing long answers or writing long sentences. If at all, you give options for them to fill. When you're doing that kind of data collection, where you now want to start collecting the data on the field, you need fresh data. That is primary data collection. But if you are collecting data that already exists, data that has been there before now, data stored, data on the internet that you're downloading, or data that exists in an organization's database or enterprise management system, you are exporting it so that you can analyze it and tell them what has been going on. That is secondary data collection method. So everything that goes into how data can be collected so that you can do analysis is what data collection is involved with. And that's what the second step tries to highlight or talk about as a critical step. These 6 steps are like the life cycle of data analysis. It will always involve defining problem statements. It will always involve, then you collect the data. Then you check for the quality of the data, for sanity, to be sure that the data is accurate. It's devoid of bias. There was no form of sentiment that was involved in the collection of the data and the cost of collecting it. Data can be collected with bias. If you go start asking questions that is tilting towards an angle already, there's a possibility that people would say, I mean, if I want to ask a question like, today's class was good, right? It was good, right? Now, it's a possibility the person will say, yeah, I think yes, it was okay. But that's different from if I ask, what's your impression of today's class on a scale of 1 to 10? I did not put the person in any corner. The person will freely give me their assessment, their honest assessment. So when checking for the quality of the data, you're asking yourself, how was the data collected? And if it's a case of a data that's already stored somewhere, you're asking, what is the integrity of the data that you are about to use for analysis or you're about to analyze, could it be that the authority that collected it does not have the pedigree? I staged a scenario of something around the northeast Nigeria where there's a problem now. And I want to ask a question. Imagine that you wanted to do analysis as a data analyst, and you were looking for data around that region. You want to be able to evaluate the feelings of students, their impression about the prospect of still going to study or not study. And you are in the UK. To collect your data, you start thinking, I mean, I cannot send anyone down there, but let me just go online and check. Maybe there is data that's been collected before. And while searching for data on the internet, you found that maybe you found something like that, but then you saw that it was collected by the computer science department, a certain group in the computer science department of University of Maiduguri, Nigeria. And you saw that data there. They said data set that they asked the questionnaire, it just matches what you want. And you're like, wow, this is it. Now, but while you were searching further again, you then found another one collected by the World Bank. The World Bank also collected the same data set. And of course, you will want to trust that the World Bank will not send clowns to Nigeria to go collect data. They will not send mediocres. They will not work with people that they are unsure of. They must have brought some of the best hands they could get. And also, they have enough funding to facilitate getting the right data. Now, if you find these two data sets available on the internet to download so you can do your analysis, University of Maiduguri Group B students, computer science, they collected the data, and you saw something by World Bank. Which one has the pedigree? Which one would you trust more? Of course, obviously, we will all say World Bank. Yes. So if that's the case, why are you leaning on World Bank's data? Because of the integrity of the organization that collected the data. So also, when we're talking about the quality of data, you're checking for the integrity of the authority. You're also checking that the data is not having too many, what they call it, invalid data. A data that has 10 columns. And then you find out that more than 20% of them only had participants fill, let's say, fill up to 5 out of the 10. There's a question there. You know, so when you talk about the quality, that is step 3 I'm talking now. The data quality check, you are looking at the integrity of the authority that collected the data. You're also checking for bias, whether the person who created the questionnaire that was used in creating the data set, if you are the one involved in creating the data set, you're asking yourself, is this question not sounding like it has bias in it? I hope this, no, this has bias. No. Let me rephrase it. You have to think. We will learn about how to ask the right set of questions if we get to that point. I say if, because it all depends on how much time we're able to. It's not involved in Excel. What I'm talking about, I am to teach you Excel. What I'm doing in this first class is to be sure that I set the tone for a good class. So I wouldn't just jump into Excel and we are learning Excel and they forget the big picture. With this, this is a general introduction into data analysis. So whether you're doing Excel, you're doing Power BI, you're doing any other technology going forward, you already have a blueprint of where we are headed. So step 3, check for quality of data. Step 4, build familiarity with the data set that you have collected. The data is good. We have collected it. The quality is no longer in doubt. Everything is okay. Before we start analyzing it, let's learn about the data. How many columns? How many rows? Oh, this data has this. I was looking for this. Oh, yes, it's there. What about the profit? Is there something like gross? Yes, there's gross profit. Okay, I see. Okay, good. There's country. That means I'll be able to find out. Oh, there's region. Good, good, good. Oh, they even have this one. It has 9 columns and it has about 50,000 records. Okay, that's the first table. Let me check the other table, the customer table. Oh, I see they have a customer name, their email. That's not that important. Oh, yes, I can see what I need. Yes, their zip code. Good. And they have this, they have that. What am I doing? I am building familiarity with the data set, and I'm also trying to see exactly how, whether it is going to be sufficient to help me deal with the step 1, the problem statements that I have been able to highlight. Will this data set, will I be able to build models from this data set that will help me answer the questions that I need to provide answers to in order to do an effective and very, very clear analysis that stakeholders will understand what I'm talking about? That's exactly what exploratory data analysis is about, building familiarity with the data set you have before you start talking about modeling the data set or modeling everything. So, engineer, I don't know if I've been able to do justice to your question.
Fantastic. You have done very well. I would still request that for the step 3, the remediation aspect.
Oh, wow. Okay. Remediation simply means you now source for the data, if possible, from sources that can help you replace missing ones, if possible. The remedy for data that the quality is in doubt, not on grounds of the authority that brought the data, but on grounds of the fact that there are many incomplete data, but you have found a place either from the organization, and if it's a data set you got from the internet, you have found another source on the internet where you can get the missing values to replace them, then of course, it means there's remedy for that problem. Okay? It's not a problem of I doubt the integrity of the data anymore. I think maybe in the course of this person exporting the data and uploading it online, they missed out on certain very important part that I need, that you need for your analysis, because some other persons may have downloaded that data set and they've rated it very high because they had more than enough information they needed for the analysis they wanted to do at that time. Maybe the data stopped somewhere in 2022 or stopped 2021, and you were hoping that 2022 was part of it. That is your reason for not wanting to work with the data set. But in the course of checking the internet for that data set, you found an updated copy of that same data set somewhere that contains what? 2022 data. Good news. What is the remedy? You get that missing, use it to update the one you have, your data set is complete, your analysis ready. Are we good now? All right, sir. You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. So I want to believe that we're all well carried and we're all on the same page. If we are, the remaining part of the class, I am going to take us into Microsoft Excel and begin the journey into a very, very amazing industry using Excel as the tool. Do we have anybody with any questions before I proceed? Any more questions? I believe I've answered or I've spoken the minds of almost everyone. In the last 10 minutes to the end of the class, I hope I'm able to create one. I'm going to randomly pick people and ask them to explain the 6 steps involved in data analysis. And so it could be you. It doesn't matter if you've spoken or you haven't spoken. I can move where my spirit directs. So let's get into Microsoft Excel. I'm going to share my screen right now. And then I will introduce you to this fantastic piece of art by Microsoft Corporation that is so underrated because a lot of people always want to use sophisticated tools to solve problems. They think it is how sophisticated the software is that will help them solve big problems. They don't understand that every tool has a strength. It's about how well you understand it, how good you can handle it, That'll determine, of course, the kinds of problems you can solve with that too. Most of the interviews you will go through while you are looking for a job as a data analyst will require Excel. I'll tell you, 80% of them, maybe. Some will now ask for SQL. Before we add you to our team, we need to be sure you have the prerequisites. We need to be sure you have the thought process. You see, most interviewers look for candidates that have the thought process to solving problems. And they can only tell that if they use the most basic data analysis tool in the world, which is a spreadsheet like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. So they will give you tasks on this technology to test your skill, to test the way you think, to test how you can interpret things. When they feel you have what they need, then they say, this guy has what we need. Come into our team, and they will train you further. So if you already know what they need, in fact, the training could become like a revision. You're having a wonderful time while they're talking and other people are tense, you're so relaxed. That's the level you should be by the time you're done with this course. If you indeed immerse yourself in the learning process and try to be sure that you learn just the way you should. I'm committed to taking you there. The rest is with you. Now, this is Microsoft Excel. And Excel is a spreadsheet application. I'm going to be walking through the interface, and assuming you've never seen it before. If you have seen it before, I'd advise you don't get too cocky with the software and assume, what does he want to tell me? I already know. No, you may know, but you need to know better. You need to know well. You need to know how to refer to the corners and the areas in the software. You need to learn how to speak like a professional when you're using the software, not just looking at it and talking, you know, that place at the corner, and I'm like, yeah, right, yes, that place. No, you have to speak, talk like someone that knows the software and uses it like your phone. Let's get into business. Now, this is the software we'll be using to learn data analysis. I'm using Office 365 at the moment, and I know what you're using. You're using Excel. I'd advise you upgrade to nothing less than Excel 2019 so that you can be able to follow through with the class. The first part of the learning will not require much, but when we're learning some new functions like the X lookup and some other interesting functions, if you don't have the something that is a little recent, you will struggle with the class. So I don't know where if you are learning this course from Nigeria, there's a possibility that you're using maybe a software that is not 365. There's a possibility. So you can try to go for Office 2021, go get some engineer to install that on your laptop, or Office 2019, the worst. That's what I'd advise, so that you'll be able to fit into everything we'll be learning in the course of this, okay? Don't be scared of upgrade, I'd advise. Always do your best to upgrade. How do you know which one you're using? Good. Someone says, I'm using 365. So how do you know which one you're using? That's Adetutu. Please, everyone, confirm what you're using right now, please. And let me show you how you can know, because there's a possibility someone has launched their own and they don't even know what they're using. So now when you launch it, you go to options. You go to options, no, go to account. You go to account, and from account, you can see what you have on your computer, okay? See 365, you see Office Mondo 2016 is the same thing. Mondo is like, what do I call it? The better version of, the better version before it was finally approved and made 365. So if you have that, you have all the complements. I installed 2021, and then it was over time converted into 365. So in my launch, I see 365 most times. So in case you don't have that, you can always get an engineer to install that for you. Depending on where you are, it's very simple. You buy the software, and then you install it on your computer. Let's get on with the whole thing. What software are you using while the class is going on? Please do well to drop that. Adetutu Oluwatosin has just told me that it's 365 that is on I think his laptop. Yeah, so please do well to drop that on the chat. I want to know what we're using so that going forward we'll know where we stand. And whatever it is you're using, I've advised you should upgrade it to 2020, 2021 or 2019 and above. If you can get 365, hooray, you're on the right track. Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet application, one of the most popular spreadsheet applications in the world, created by Microsoft Corporation. And this software has evolved beyond just a regular spreadsheet application into a full-fledged data analysis solution. And because it's a software for storing data, where many organizations rely on it, of course, for imputing data, Microsoft has extended its functionalities over the years to become a software that can also help them with gathering business intelligence and doing all of those things they could have done with other very, very expensive proprietary softwares. Microsoft also are the guys behind Microsoft Power BI, which is a software they designed specifically for business intelligence solutions. That is trying to draw business intelligence from data. That's another software you'll be learning for data analysis. Having said that, when you launch Excel the first time, you'll see an interface where you can pick any of the templates that you want to use. But advice, you go for the blank screen so that you can find yourself where I am right now. On the blank page, you will see this. Now I'm going to talk about the interface very quickly in the next the 6 minutes, so I can have 8 minutes to ask questions. So at the top left corner, you have your quick access tools bar. And as the name suggests, you have tools that have been put there or pinned somewhere around there that you can very quickly access. You can add other tools like this one I added because I love to use shapes to build dashboards. So I added these tools here in my tools, quick access tools bar. Office 365 has this search bar there, which you may not find in 2016 or maybe even 2019. You won't find that. So you can very quickly search for whatever it is you're looking for, any of the tools, the utilities in Excel, you can find that there. You have your Windows control bar here, where you can either choose to minimize, you can, of course, restore down, and you can close the application. You could also sign into Microsoft, your Microsoft application, your Microsoft Office account. Just beneath this green bar, which I have the quick access toolbar, the search bar, and then the Windows control bar, you have this area you will call your menu bar. On your menu bar, you have tabs or menus. It is referred to as a menu bar because it contains menus. And menus, when you open a menu, you see many things in it. So we have the home menu at the moment, that is the active one. That is why you have that little bar there underneath it. You also have the insert menu. When you go to that menu, you see the plethora of tools and assets available for you to use. When you talk about inserting, what are those things you can insert? They are just there beneath. I'm going to talk about this bar that is beneath. It is called the tools bar. So each menu opens collection of tools that are associated with that menu. You find that beneath on the tools bar. You have the page layout menu, the formulas menu, the data menu, and so on. There are some menus I turned on, and even some that I created from the Microsoft Ribbon. We'll learn about that later. For example, the Power Pivot is not activated by default. You won't see that. You also see forms here. You might be wondering, why is this man having forms on his own, but I don't have, including the developer tab. These are menus that you can turn on. When we get to that stage, you'll learn how to turn that on from your ribbon. You don't need to bother yourself about that. For now, just know there's a bar called the menu bar. And what does it contain? Menus, or like some other people will refer to it, tabs, okay? The tools bar is beneath the menu bar. Like I said earlier, every menu opens up access to tools that you can use. And those tools are nicely laid on the tools bar. That is this very big area here, this whole big area that contains all kinds of lovely icons you could use at any time. On the tools bar, you also have this collection of tools grouped together based on their functions. For instance, you have the clipboard tools group, the font tools group, the alignment tools group, number tools group, styles, cells, editing, analysis. and of course, add-ins. All of these tools groups are there on the tools bar, and they are tools group related to which menu are now? The home menu. If I go to the insert menu, of course, I'll see all the tools group that are different. I see the tables, you see these tools, pivot table, recommended table, and table. They are under this group called tables. You have illustrations that is handling pictures, shapes, icon, 3D model, smart art. They're under this group. Charts has its own and all that. So on each of the menus, you have collection of tools, and these tools are what's grouped according to how they relate to each other. Easy, right? Let's go on. After that, you come to this part you call name box. The name box, of course, as the name suggests, that's where you have the name of the active cell. The name of the active cell. I see Eckhart Augustine saying is using Office 2013. You need to upgrade it. Let's go on. So the name box has the name of the active cell. Look at this current cell I'm on. The name is E6. This one, B1. This one, A1. Generally, cells, these are called cells. And cells in Excel are formed, or they take the name of the column, this is a column, and the row that joined to create them. You will observe that we have all of these here. These are called columns, and these columns have identifiers. Hence, A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way to the end. They are called what? Column identifiers. Okay, this is a column identifier. A, column identifier. C, column identifier. E, like that. And if you have column identifier, naturally you will also have what? Row identifiers. If you observe, the row identifiers are numerical, while the column identifiers are alphabetical. We have row identifier 1. If you click on it, it highlights the entire row to the end. Okay, and the column identifiers, if you click on the identifier, it highlights it all the way to the end. Don't forget, like I said, if you click on the cell, that active cell, you see it with, highlighted. If you want to know the name, either you look through by checking the name of the column and the name of the row. In this case, you have D4, or you take your eyes to the name box and you can easily identify the name. Okay. You also have this part that is called the formula bar. That's where you have the formula. So a simple formula like 3 plus 3, if it's written on this cell, can be edited on the formula bar. And also when you have functions that are written in a cell, you can edit them from the formula bar. The work or the sheet, the work area, which is where I've been talking about the cell all the while, all of these cells is there. It can span as far as the last column is XFD. If you hold the control key on your keyboard and you press the arrow going right, it will take you to the last column, XFD. Okay, of course, and if you go down by holding the control, you press the arrow going down, it takes you also to the last row on this software I'm using right now. It's about 1,048,576. And that's the count. The last row, the last record, or the last row on this software is 1,048,576. Of course, I can find my way back, hold my control, go back to the left, and then go back up, and I'm back to A1. Okay? Having said that, let me very quickly touch the other few sides. We have, these are the sheets. We're currently on sheet 1. You can hit the plus icon here to create another sheet. Okay? And then, of course, you can create sheet 2, you can have sheet 3. The sheets can also be renamed. You can double click to rename it, or you right click and go to the rename tab and change it to whatever you want to call it. Okay, new name, I choose to call it. And of course, you can color the sheets, give them some lovely color codes that suggest or that helps you easily identify them. For instance, I can choose to color code this with that color there, orange, and then I can color code another one with blue, if that helps to make the job easier for me. You have your scroll bar. This allows you to scroll through, to scroll horizontally. And if you have a horizontal scroll bar, you can trust you have another one here, which is a vertical scroll bar. You have your zoom control. that allows you to zoom into your sheet every corner you want so you can have a good view of it. And also, just around here, you can have different layouts of your Excel sheet. Depends on what you're presenting at that time or what you're working on. This is the normal layout. You have the page layout. This allows you to have an idea of based on the current layout that has been set. This will break it into, this is set to A4 paper right now. So I'm able to see it broken into different A4 sheets that will come out in case I'm working in Excel and I need to be sure the boundaries. I can set it to that. And of course, you also have the page break preview that also allows you to have an idea of this, where there are page breaks. There's none at the moment, so you see that back screen. So back to the default, which is the normal view, you're able to have an idea of exactly what everything is and what happens around here. We are ready. All is good. The software is, of course, waiting for us to start putting it to use, but we're not going to do that today because it's just for us to build familiarity with the software on the first day. So having said all that, I don't have much time. I just have barely 4 minutes to the end of the class. And I wanted to ask questions about what we've learned. But I don't think I'll even have that time because you have another class starting by 7 p.m. I won't want to keep you waiting till that time. So I'll use the remaining 4 minutes to take any questions, reactions, comments, worries, whatever it is, before we call it a wrap. In the next class, we'll start by having a review of the interface and the 6 steps. So then you will all have to talk. Not everybody. I could just speak randomly, just to be sure that indeed the last class was well understood. Any questions before we call it a wrap? Any questions? Any questions, any comments, anything you want to say before I sign out? Any questions? Please feel free. Was there anyone that wasn't introduced? You didn't introduce yourself in the course of the class before we started? I don't think I
didn't.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Caesar, let's meet you.
Okay, yes, I was actually I had gone to the wrong link for 7 p.m. But eventually I was brought back here, so I didn't have the opportunity to introduce myself. So my name is Caesar Ikenyi.
Okay.
Of course, this is the first day of class, so it's my first day of class as well. I was in the banking sector for a while. And while I was there, I saw data at work. I saw data analytics at work, and it actually caught my attention. And I felt that this is actually where my passion lies. And so basically, I've started work on that right here.
Brilliant. This is one of the best decisions I think you've made, because with your solid background in data, especially in the financial industry, I can imagine the big future waiting ahead for you. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. So, guys, I wish to, at this juncture, congratulate you for making it to the first class in this course on data analysis using Microsoft Excel. It's my pleasure to be your instructor through the course. My name remains Dominic Yodu. Feel free to call me Dom at any point in time. I hope that we'll be able to walk through this course and get to the end successfully by the grace of the Almighty. You have yourselves a wonderful evening, morning, or afternoon, depending on wherever you are around the world. Goodbye from me.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry, I have an important announcement to make. Due to some unavoidable circumstances, our Power BI class for today has been postponed until next week, Saturday by 7 p.m. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience this must have cost you. But then again, tomorrow we have another class in SQL starting by 6 p.m. I do hope that this announcement does not cause you so much inconvenience. We sincerely apologize for this. Thank you very much and do have a wonderful weekend.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
I couldn't hear the announcement about the Power BI.
Okay. Due to an unavoidable circumstance, the class will not be holding today.
Okay.
It has been pushed till next week. However, our SQL class for tomorrow still stands. It starts by 6 p.m.
Okay.
Do you get me, sir?
Yeah, I agree.
Clearly.
All right. Thank you very much. And do have a wonderful weekend. And please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions or any observations you would like to make. And I would also like to hear from you about your first experience in our class. You can send me a mail or you can reach us through the WhatsApp group.
Sir, let me just quickly say this, sir.
Okay, sir.
If there's any download that we need to make before the class commences,